All right, everybody. Well, welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredlin, joined by, of course, our wonderful panel here. We've got Rob Washam, John Somsky, Jim Reed, and Ian Matakis has also joined us today. We got a couple of guys that couldn't make it because they're traveling and that sort of thing. But we're excited today. We have an opportunity to chat with Fedor Holz, who most of you know from his history in poker. So that's going to be delightful. Our official sponsor, as always, is Running Aces Racetrack, Casino, and Hotel, as well as Learn Pro Poker. And so let's get right in here, man. We don't want to waste a minute here. Let's just welcome in the one and only Fedor Holz. Fedor, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And you are calling in from Vienna, Austria.
My home in the background.
Your home, is that your home there? Hey, can we let's take a look here, see what we got going on.
Living room, not too exciting things.
Not too exciting. I'm sure we'll find something exciting in there. But no, you mentioned you just got back from a soccer game, so that's something that you're doing?
Yeah, it's post-retirement. Plan includes regular exercise.
You hear that, Rob? You're muted, Rob. Post-retirement includes exercise, Rob. Remember that now. Well, Fedor,
it'll be golf for me.
Golf. Well, Fedor, I mean, most of you guys know Fedor. He's $33 million of reported earnings on Hendon Mob, which is 8th all-time, first in Germany. He had a huge 2016, but in 2018 decided to retire, quote unquote, from poker. Now he's spending time split between Poker Strategy and the Primed Group. And, we're not going to spend a lot of time getting into all of Fedor's background. If you don't know who Fedor is, Google him. Look up his poker stuff, all of that. There's a wonderful YouTube video out there where he spoke at the 2017 Web Summit, which Fedor, I thought, gave a great background of kind of your upbringing with your mom, how you got into poker, how you got out of poker.
I think I feel the more authentic and honest I share what I experienced, the better I feel about it. And I feel also the more other people can connect with it, because in the end, yes, I've been really successful, but I mean, I went through lots of situations that people can relate to and that other people go through too. So it's not that I'm this alien that just lives a different life. Right.
Well, I thought it's a great opportunity for the folks that don't know Fedor's story. Go out there, check out 2017 Web Summit, Fedor Holz, and check it out. It paints a great picture for him and his background. It helps sort of put you into this real life, like you're mentioning. We see you on TV or all those things, and we're like, wow, this guy is an alien. he's it's almost creepy how awesome he is. But you're a real person. You've got a real story. You've got a real, there's been a kind of a path that has led you to where you are today. And I think that's great for people to kind of tune into that. So let's talk a little bit poker strategy now. And the panel, I don't know what questions they're going to ask you. We're pretty organic in how we develop things. But let me start with this one. I'm so curious. A lot of us, we just saw kind of the end result, right? We see Fedor winning, $6 million here or whatever. I'm curious if there are any things that you look back on that are like key insights for you in terms of poker strategy that were like the things that kind of put you over the hump. Once you kind of got this, it kind of sort of clicked. Are there certain things strategy-wise that just sort of like once you figured that out, it really took your game to another level?
Let me turn around that question, because I think it comes from a place where the search of a lot of people in not just poker, but in poker and in other areas is for that specific blue pill, like the one thing
right.
that you got to know. And once you know it, once you solve it, then everything, then it's solved. Like, give me that one answer, give me that one solution that then from then on, I'm going to be like better, great, successful, reach my goals, whatever. And it's like, it doesn't exist. And it's, even if I coach people, I spend a lot of energy and time with people in the past and still do with Poker Code. And it's the one thing that I've seen in poker, but then also in other areas, it's about just constantly investing energy. And what you don't see before that is I started playing poker in 2010-ish, and I played more than a full-time job every single year leading up to me being successful. Like it was the one thing I did like day in, day out, like breathing it. I had nothing. I had no responsibilities around that. So it was when I woke up, I was thinking poker. I dreamt of poker. I started playing poker. All my friends were in poker. Like everything in my life was about poker. So and it's, I'm not saying like your life has to be like that, right? Like that's also you mentioned before, people, I think you said something like people want to be like me, and it's like, no, don't be like me. Be like you, right? Like figure out what feels good for you and how you want to implement it. If you want to, just play poker for fun and play it a couple hours a week, like great, amazing. I think the discrepancy starts when, as I started it out with, you want to achieve, like you want to be really good at it, you want to be great, you want to be number one, but you don't want to put in the energy. You don't want to put in the time. Like, then ask, why do you want to be great? Is it because you actually want to play poker, or is it because you want to impress other people by saying like, hey, I'm great at poker, I want money with it, and so on. And so that's when it actually starts, where it becomes a personality thing, like something that is, I think, that can really have an impact and change on your life. And if you don't go that deep, and if you don't ask yourself the question, you're just gonna like be stuck in that chase, and you're gonna look for the next solution, and it will never come, because there is none.
I love that. You and I we're more alike than you realize. I mean, that's sort of one of the things I help with people do, is just kind of figure out their true motivations. I always ask them why. And I think in the poker world, it is no different. It's, why do we actually play this game? And then, be the best that you can in that realm. Like you said, if it's just playing for fun, play for fun. Enjoy it. Then don't apologize for that, that you're having fun. So I love that. I love that you're sort of deflecting and saying, just be the best version of yourself, for sure. Jim?
I mean, I'm just kind of curious. At one point, you were just like the rest of us, learning how to play poker and playing with your friends and developing the strategies that you thought were best for the kind of game you wanted to play. And a lot of the Rec Poker Nation is in that same spot, where we take poker seriously and we're thoughtful about it, and we enjoy the study of the game and the playing of the game. And not from a question of like a blue pill or something, but do you recall in your own story the point or a point where you just changed the way you thought about the strategy, or instead of thinking about, oh, I should 3-bet more here, you started thinking about sort of like a bigger context for the strategy of poker, or a different way of thinking about it? Was there a moment like that where you felt like you were speaking the language more fluently and not just sort of using a phrase book to make yourself understood?
I would actually say that there were, I can remember dozens of moments like this, because I think it's constantly, like it's been constantly understanding that I basically don't know that much about the game, and always having the illusion of like thinking I do. So it's, I think when I compare myself to others, I think I like there is this mixture, and I don't say that positively. It's more like neutral observation of like, in myself, I think I had a very strong drive to prove and to be acknowledged, like based on who I am. But like that's why when all these points came, was like when I thought, oh, I got it, or I understood, like then there was always this stronger voice that was saying, no, it's not good enough, like keep going. And I've seen a lot of people like besides me who were like, they started becoming comfortable and was like, yeah, sure, like I make this and this much money, so they started more grinding. And I was like, no, I want to understand more, I want to get better, I want to like keep going. So I was the first one who started playing. Like I remember, like there were countless of these moments. It was like, okay, no, I want to play higher online. No, I want to play high rollers live. And I played my first 7K high roller against like the Crushers back then, like the German. I remember in 2014 in the Caribbean, it was my first one. It was like crazy, playing with these guys, legends. But then like, no, I want to play 25K. I want to continue. And it was always this ongoing thing. So there were countless of these moments. In terms of strategy, it was mostly just, it just came out of I would say most of it for me. So my approach to poker has always been slightly different. I think that was one of the parts where the way I think, and I used to always think, came into play. And I think that also individually says a lot about me is I think a lot in logics. Like I think rather in logics than in solutions. Also reason why I think most children, it's an interesting correlation because I think most children who really don't perform well in school think in logics rather than in solutions. So I really, really didn't like the way how learning was taught in school. Because for me, it's more, I want to see solutions and then I want to understand the logic behind the solution. So that also requires a certain like problem. So it's like, okay, there's countless different problems, there's countless different solutions. So let me understand how in every new situation that I don't have a solution for, I can create the solution with the logic that I established. So that's always been my thought, because there's billions of different solutions in poker, especially like different positions, different stack sizes, different players, different actions. Like it's endless basically, or it's so huge that you can't learn all of them. So my thought was always, okay, how can I improve my thought process in the way that there will never be the exact same situation, but they're going to be approximately similar situations. So I want to approach the game in a way where I don't try to learn a solution, because if I learn the solution, I won't be good at abstracting the solution, right? But I was trying to understand, okay, why is this, like, what's my strategy approaching the spot, right? Like, what's my pre-flop raising strategy? How do I adapt from that? What's my flop strategy? How does that change on different board textures to, like, not only like learn something like, oh, I'm a robot, I execute this, but it's more like, okay. And I think that was a way how this approach mostly leads to being slightly worse in the beginning, because the people who learn solutions are mostly better in the first time period, and then extremely like leaving them behind in the later stages, because you're just limited if you try to learn pure solutions. And that's actually the best players in the game right now, or at least the ones I know, they do a mix of both. So they basically start with solutions. Now obviously it's a bit different, because when I played there was no PO solvers, no solvers at all, so it was mostly just like working it out ourselves. But now they do the same thing, where they solve a huge bunch of solutions, and then they try to find and like bunch them and try to find logics in these solutions. So it's I think a very good way to explain what I've been doing without any technical help.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love that approach. Ian, did you have something?
Not exactly, but I just kind of recently learned putting hands into groups, like you said, and you're not solving one hand, you're solving like similar situations and then adapting from there. And I think learning that in the past year or so has helped my game a ton. So yeah, it's just a great point by him.
And I think we'll go to you, Rob, here in a second. But I think that's the idea. I think what I think us rec players could use some help with, Fedor, maybe you can touch on this a little bit, is how do we make that transition? Like you're a natural logician, I think, and there's people that are natural logicians, meaning they're going to take all of this, all of the outputs and all the inputs and create a logical structure to make decisions on that. But not everybody is sort of a natural there. How do you help people move from, instead of just memorizing what should I do with pocket fours under the gun, what should I do with ace king out of position? Mm-hmm. How do you make that transition from solution based memorization in a sense to a logical structure? Like, do you have any tips on how the average person who can't dedicate their life to it, our recreational players, are people that have full-time jobs and they're trying to play $150 tournaments once a week, how can they improve in this way of making better decisions using logic rather than memorizing solutions? So
I always like the best question for me that I ask myself is, okay, if I would have to coach someone, how would I go about it? And first of all, I think it's extremely important to understand the person first. So that would be my task. So I think the same thing for you is you have to understand yourself to a degree where, like, not, as you said, not everyone works that way. I've seen, like, the people around me who crushed were like, they were totally different. There were people who were like way more mathematical statistic approach, and like we had so different. I mean, I also went a lot around my intuition. I was just doing out of like, hey, okay, I can't explain what I do, it just feels good. And like was more this kind of mixture of both worlds, whereas some people were really on the like just field player side. Some were like, everyone found their individual way, and I think that's what I would suggest too. Like, really try to understand yourself. Like, what is the way that you enjoy learning? If I share you the way I learned, that's not going to work for a lot of people, right? I don't like to learn when I don't feel like it, basically. Like, there were other people who just had their like they were studying 4 hours a day. Like, they started at the same time, they ended. Like, I was rather doing just more free flow things. So for example, I learned a lot watching other people or like talking to them. I would say I just love kind of immersing myself in the topic and just having it there. My brain just works on stuff all the time. And other people just like to, just go in the rabbit hole and just, so I think first step is understanding, how do you like to learn? What do you enjoy about it? And how can you implement it in your game? I think that's number one that I would figure out. And then the second part, when you figure that out, you can try different approaches. Like, for example, I've always, I hated books. I've never, like, I think I've read one poker book, like 6 years ago or something. Just old news, basically. It's like, okay, someone wrote that like 3 years ago. I loved learning from videos. I think it's it was so incredible to me how people put out insane content that was like super fresh, basically, and almost no one knew about it, right? Like, I think there's so much content out there that is extremely valuable if you know where to look. And then people complain about not knowing like where to go, like how to learn. Is like, I was always like, guys, there's literally Sauce. I remember Sauce putting out Sauce and Phil Gelfand like 4 years ago or whatever. They put out like Cash Game. I was just like, guys, if you haven't watched this video, never complain about not having enough content out there. So there were so many things where I think it's about how much time and dedication you put into to actually find ways to establish these information flow channels, basically, right? So for me, I was just constantly trying to find, I was in forums, I was discussing hands with people in forums, I had my Skype groups, I was in touch with hundreds of people over Skype. Like, when I had one hand, I was taking the hand and I was posting it in 15 groups, and I got like 8 messages back, and I had 8 different perspectives on the hand. I was on Skype with my people, like, I'm not joking, like probably 3 to 4 hours on average a day. Like, I was talking to people non-stop. I was living in a poker, like, you see how many different ways there are to incorporate just constantly learning poker, and you can adapt that to your lifestyle, right? Like, if you want to do a third of that, you can just pick out the things that you enjoy the most. For me, it was everything.
I love this so much. I think it's such a practical way. But what I love about it most, I think, is how it seems like everything you're talking about is so grounded in self-awareness, and you have such a non-judgmental posture toward it. It's not about who's right or who's wrong and who's learning the right way or the wrong way. It's know yourself and then pursue it. And, I love that message so much. Rob, did you have something to ask or share?
First of all, I want to say I'm really jealous of the fact that you're so self-aware at the age that you are.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I'm probably the oldest guy in this panel.
Probably double the age of everybody else.
Exactly. I don't think I was as self-aware as you are at that age. Do you think that self-awareness that you have has really motivated you or helped you in your poker learning and your success in poker?
Yes. The short answer is yes, but I really like that you bring up this topic. I think, it's basically just living life more intense, right? Like, it's, as a child, it was a bit more painful for me because, again, like other things, I felt more intense. And this sensitivity around just like it's everything. It's things that happen around me, or for how people behave, like what just picking up things. And that's really tying closely in the topic of intuition of I just feel things that are very that I can't really rationally describe, and that consciously I'm too slow basically to grasp it. And that's always been kind of the way I thought about it, is that like I pick up so like I feel that I'm my being is so much smarter than like my mind is, and that I give, like I put a lot of trust in it. And I think it wasn't always the case. It was actually the opposite. I was like, okay, no, like I have to solve everything with my mind. But now I was more like, no, actually there's so many answers that I can give without that I can't explain. Like I can't rationalize it. I can't tell you why why this and this and this. And it's been mostly because it's been judged really hard around me. Like a lot of people know if you can't explain it, it's not worthy. Like it's not valid. It's not valuable. So I always thought that I had to explain everything, and then I became better at like logically trying to explain things. But then I actually went back to, and no, like intuition is great. Like being sensitive and like feeling things and expressing that you felt something but can't explain. That's great. Like if other people tell me, hey, I felt this, but I can't explain why, I was like, that's valid. Yeah, sure. Like let's weave that into how we deal with things. And so I think being aware, being conscious is making life more livable. Like it creates connection with other people. It creates more connection with yourself. And because exactly asking these questions, like who am I? Like what do I want? Where's my natural? What's my natural expression? Like I think that I can say the more, it's literally direct correlation. Success is not, but direct correlation between the more I express myself, the happier I am, period. The more successful I was, not the same.
I love that. I think that's what creates this mystery about you a little bit. Like I think that's why people are so interested in you and your life, because we look at that and we say, okay, here's this young guy, comes on the poker scene, crushes, leaves, does this other stuff. People want to know, what is the secret? What is the key? And so I think that's the mystery, because you're sort of deflecting. Well, you're not deflecting it. You're giving your honest, authentic answer, which is what you're saying right here. It's not about a logical, systematic thing. It's about intuition. It's, and those are the things I think people are like, but there has to be a logical answer. There has to be an explanation, that I can now apply to my life. And to have you sort of say the way that you're saying it, I think hopefully drives our listeners, drives each of us to say, maybe there is a sort of a different undercurrent of how life operates. Maybe it's not just as simple as, do these things right and you will have the same success. I think that's what I love how you're responding, because I think it drives us to different, or drives me anyway, to sort of a different level of how does this world work? And is it really about finding what I'm passionate about, sharing that passion with other people, being fully aware of who I am, and then living the best version of my life in alignment with those things? Is that really what it's about, versus this formulaic, how do I become the best or the most well-known?
I want to tie into that, because there's been, I don't know exactly who brought it up. I think I've read it in a book, but it's been kind of an old thought. It's one thing that really changed my perspective on things. So I, maybe on a personal background, like I was a very, very curious child, and then turned more into, let's say, being like explaining everything or giving an answer to everything. And I think it was also kind of for security reasons, right? Like if it just feels safer when I can give answers to stuff, rather like saying like I don't know, or I don't know all the time. And also in externally, right? There was a lot of expectation around me. It was like to be good or perform, and so like to perform, and so you have to give an answer, right? If you say I don't know, that's kind of like a minus on the performance list. So and that led me to actually giving kind of lying a lot, or these where it wasn't reflected at all. It was more like I give an answer where I became really good at presenting an answer with confidence, where the other person doesn't have that much knowledge in the area, and so they believe it, but it's actually I'm not that much of an expert in the area either. So I became good at like presenting things. It's like that's how it is, and it's like and time back is that I've read something in a book around I think it was by Nicholas Taleb, and he describes these three areas. So the first area is the known. So the things we know that we know them. Then the second area is the known unknown. So the things that we know that we don't know them. So it's like, I know this stuff, and there's like all this stuff that I know that I can still learn. And then now is the most important area is the unknown. So there's a lot of stuff in life that we don't know. And it's an extremely hard to grasp concept because you can't imagine it because you don't know.
Right.
So it's like you can't even start to try to imagine because everything that comes up in your imagination is going to be something that is in the area of known unknown, not outside of that.
This is the Black Swan?
Yeah, I think it was in Black Swan, yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, there were multiple situations where obviously that comes up, right? We learned something and we're like, okay, we moved something from the known unknown to like the known. We learn more things. And then, but there's also lots of these moments where we realize, there's this big area that we haven't even thought of that exists, right? And think like, try to like put that into poker now. First of all, there's so many things that you believe to be true that aren't. Second of all, you believe that what you see as you can still learn, or like that is your known unknown, has to be almost the entirety of the thing, right? It's like you think that if you look at me and it's like, if I go this path or like this progress, I can become the best. Or look at other players, or like you feel you have an understanding for what's out there in poker if you've played like a couple thousand hours, and you're like, but actually like these two things combined are close to zero. So you know nothing.
Great.
Like even I, after playing 15,000 hours in poker, like I still know very little. And this, to understand this part, I think that is the most important thing. Not only in poker, in lots of areas, but like if you're on your path as a poker player, is to try to wrap your head around this, because it's the essence of learning. Because every single time you believe that you figured it out, so that you think your known is like 70%, right? Or 50% is like, yeah, I figured most of it out. I still have some things to learn, but like I got it, right? Like I crushed my 2-5 game, like I'm the best player in the game. I understand most of these concepts. Someone new comes to you and you talk to him, is like, I don't want to, like, I can't learn much from this guy. I got it, right? Like I understood most of the things. So every behavior that is defensive and that will like keep you from learning new things comes from you overestimating the things you know. The moment you understand that you know very little, you will be very curious, you will be open-minded, you will look at other people and how they play. You will look at other people who are worse than you, significantly worse than you, and still try to learn from them. Because you can learn from them how you can exploit them better, you can learn from them things that they maybe do better than you. Like, think about this. The worst people considered in the game back then, and the best players in the game back then, like, look at the things they did. If we look at it now, 5 years later, or like whatever, online, these people were terrible. Unbelievable. Like, there were recreationals who were limping, which was actually a really good play, and people thought they were fish. They were min raising, people thought they were fish. Really good players were like 4-bet folding to like, they were like, just think about how they thought they're like the kings of the world and the best players, and they'd made terrible choices, and then people who were considered fish actually made great plays. And it's this ignorance that keeps people from getting better. So I'm really passionate about this topic because I think it's the essence of not only learning itself, but then also being with other people. Is if you don't think that you know it all, or that you figured out a lot of things, it just gives another ground for relationship with people around you.
I love that. And John, we'll get to you in a second. I just love that because like this idea that it seems overwhelming when you say, okay, what you know, and what you don't know is just nothing. Like you literally, nothing. I mean, we could take that and we could say, well, that's depressing. Thanks for the great news, Fedor. Appreciate that. We know nothing, but I mean,
but we all are in it together. Like that's,
yeah, right. But we all know that. So collectively we know nothing. So 0 + 0 + 0. But what I love about that is that, your point that you're making that I'm taking away anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, is that what it drives us toward is a posture of learning, a posture of not taking anything for granted, a posture of exploring and looking for new things rather than being depressed and saying, we don't know anything. What's the hope? We don't have any hope. It's this idea of now we have all of this thing, these unknowns, the unknown unknowns that we can be excited about the potential of discovering.
Quick life experience there. When I started playing poker with my team, the Germans, 2013, I think literally we had less than, it might have been 30K combined in the, like I was almost at zero, but like most of the people were at zero, but like some had a little bit of money and were playing maybe 50 cents, one, two, maybe like the best of them. So we were all like shitty players, let's say like that. All ambition, all want to get better. 3 years later, I think it might have been even 2 years later. 3 years later, we're all top 30 in the world. Like there's no variance in that, right? Like if it would have been variance, then it would have been like more spread out. Like some people dropped out on the path and they made lots of money and quit. But the end result, it was just like nobody was working as a team. In 2013, 2014, almost nobody was working like together. It was, we just, and that's when you said 0 + 0, it's not entirely zero, obviously, but it showcased, I think, that if you put together people who like, just imagine this calculation. I experience 1,000 hours. 8 other people experience 1,000 hours. We filter these 1,000 hours and take out like the best 30 hours that we learn. Like we take these out and we share them. You get 8,000 hours.
Yeah.
For like 200 hours spending together with some friends. It's like just this massive thought of like combining knowledge and information. The moment you think that like the stuff they're doing, like you won't go into the conversation. But once you have the mindset of like, wow, I can learn, I learned from every single one of these guys. I learned something. From some more, from some less, but from each of them I learned something. And that, I think, is the power of community and collaboration.
Love that. Well said. John, did you have something?
Yeah, a couple of things. So the recent conversation reminds me of the old joke, I wish I was a teenager again back when I knew everything. And it kind of goes, the more you mature, the more you realize first that even the known unknowns are larger than you thought they were. But secondly, that there is this whole category of things you don't even know you don't know. And there are possibilities beyond that. So I thought that was really interesting. But the other point I had was looking at what you have done. The way I would describe it is that you are living your life with intention. And I know for me, I had kind of a plan up through college. I knew I wanted to do well in high school so I could do well in college so I could get a good job. And then kind of after that, the pathway kind of drops out. And for a while, I found myself just kind of living life by accident. And I'm trying to bring more intention back into that now. So I'm doing the things I want to do. And this seems to me like something you're doing very well, with the whole idea of retiring from poker when you're on top, to starting the primed group and some of the other things you're involved with. Is that something you've been doing consciously, or is it just a side effect of the way you think about life, or what could you say about that?
It's a nice way of saying it. I think it's important to get the background on why I stopped playing. And I mean, this whole retirement thing, lots of people made fun of it, but that's why I just keep going with it. And I'm actually very happy that I really actually haven't played since I stopped playing, because I think it was not, oh, I have to force myself, or like, oh, I did this for, like, I didn't quit because I was at the top. Like, there was not like, oh, I gotta quit when I'm at the top. No, if I would have liked it, I would have continued. There was no not a plan behind that. It was more, let's say, I would differentiate between my mind and my let's call it heart. So in my mind, I've always been chasing something. There was always this path of, okay, I got to set goals. I need a strategy, and then, like, it's basically immediately when I think about something, there's immediately a thing that is popping up. Is like, okay, like, create an image, create a vision of like how it should be looking, and then create a plan, create goals, create a strategy. And I think a lot of people are chasing that, actually, but in actuality, it's pretty far away from the heart oftentimes. And I've realized that too, is like, when I went through poker, I started without ever thinking about a plan. Like, I started playing poker and I was just like, hey, I like that. That was all.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, we play poker with friends. Hey, cool, let's do it again. It was like, and then I just started playing poker. That was the whole thing. So I just really enjoyed and it's not so much there was not so obviously the emotional side of things and so on that hooked me for sure, but it was really just, I could learn, and there's lots of feedback loops, and I can be with friends, and I got this feeling of like getting better at something, and it was nice to be involved in something. So that part. And then the deeper I got into it, the more successful I was, the more pressure I felt to think it through and plan and like set goals. And because now it was about like, hey, there is an expectation. And then the more expectation I started building as well. So it was like, okay, apparently, like, this is my shot. This is my one time. Like, this is the thing. Like, I got to make as much money with it as possible. And that was never something that I went into it with. I never went into it. I was like, oh, this is like, I have this full strategy. I start playing poker now, do it for 6 years. I make a couple of million, and then I'm out of it. Like, never. The first 3 years, I was just, oh, it's just fun. Like, I do it. It's fun. I made zero. I made like minus 3,000 euros the first 3 years I play poker. So not successful. Lots of fun. And then I would say there was these 2 years in between where I was really enjoying it. So year 2 and 3 was mostly getting a lot of, I would say, pressure from the outside, like do something normal. People got a bit worried, and big message of mine, exploration, let people explore. Like, if someone is exploring for 3 months, like, I think a third half of the life should be about exploration, not like just a couple months. Like, don't pressure people into knowing what they do for the next 50 years when they're 18. I think that's bullshit. So I think when I was there, then later, it was really the chase. I was setting goals every couple months. I was like, I got to grind VPPs. I got to grind tournaments. Like, I had like literally, I had numbers and sheets, and I was just like, okay, go. like dollar. Then I started setting dollar numbers, and then I think in 2016, I reached a part where I think my goal for 2016 was like a volume goal and a money goal. So $1 million and I think a couple 100,000 hands or something. And I was at that time where I started playing high stakes cash game as well, and want to improve my game there. Played sit and goes, played tournaments, and mostly live. So mostly about establishing myself in the live circle. And then I overshot that goal by so much that I was in July. I got home. I dropped my keys here. It was like it was a different apartment. I dropped my keys in the apartment. Like, I will never forget this moment. And it was basically just the first time for a long time where I asked myself, like, how do I feel?
Mm.
And it was the status check, basically. And I was like, oof, I feel like burned out inside. This last 7 weeks, I was grinding 14 hours a day. And I was very successful, but I wasn't like this whole, like when I was in like, wait, why did I do this whole thing? And then I realized, like, in the beginning, I kind of lost sight of the reason why I did it for myself. And then the more I did it for others and what I felt like I should be doing, and like, yeah, what should I be doing now? I was like, no, what do I want to do? I think switching these two questions made a big difference. And then I was there. I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm done. Like, this doesn't make me happy. And I don't think I couldn't envision, like, there was not a single scenario where I could envision I would have fun again. And the only scenario that I could envision was, yeah, there were a couple of things that I liked, but that would be like 5 hours a week. So I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'll play the things I like. I'll fly to Australia and like maybe play Vegas, and like, that's it. I'm done. And that was actually very, very easy, because the answer to the question, like, does it make me happy or what makes me happy, was very fast. And then it was very like, oh, okay, then yeah, why do I even bother? So now I think that was the biggest realization of mine, is that the more I deviate from, the more I do things for external reasons, the less I feel connected, the less happy I am. Very, very simple. So yet super difficult, obviously, because there's constant, like, I have lots of conditionings, and like there's constantly like tension, or like there's stuff just happening, and I'm in interaction with lots of things from the outside. So it's not that easy. But long answer to your question, but it's to me, really the core of it is to ask myself, and it's not so much asking a question and then like, it's more like kind of not thinking actually, and just feeling like, how do I feel? And I feel pretty good right now. So
Good.
the more I feel good, and the more that's just how it feels like, then I'm like, yeah, I'm in the right spot. And that's to actually come to the really important part, is I don't need a goal. I don't need a plan. I don't need something that I can chase. Because if it's good right now, it's good in the next now, and it's good in the next now, and it's still going to be good. Like, if I focus on that, then I don't need plans, and I don't need something to chase.
Dude, we could talk for hours and hours. Like, I'm just love how you are reflecting life. And I think, sort of like this, doing this intentional check-in with your heart, how am I doing? How am I feeling? I mean, this is our life, right? This is our chance to live life the way that we're wired to. And kind of what John was saying, I talk a lot about living a default life. And I think a lot of us get stuck in, we sort of receive the life that we're supposed to live, and we fall into that, and we just live that out by life, by default, rather than saying, well, what kind of life do I want to live? And for somebody your age to have the self-awareness and even the courage. I know you talked about in the talk that I saw on YouTube, or one of the talks that I saw on YouTube, about sort of this pressure to do something, to be something. You kind of grew up with that idea that people said, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to do this real thing? When are you going to be somebody? When are you going to make something of yourself? And, so we all have those different pressures in our life. And you had the courage to still explore. And, the success obviously helps. It gives you freedom to do other things. but to keep exploring and not to take on the burden of the pressure of society or your family or whoever saying, why did you stop playing poker? You're making all of this money. And I think about so many times we allow ourselves to be should on, which, when we just, people say, here's what you should do, here's what you should do. And we get tired of being should on. And I think you're a good, and I think you're a good example of saying, I'm not going to let that happen. Even though people are inviting me to come on poker podcasts, they want to talk about poker, and and I'm sick of poker right now. And I think that's okay to say that and say, here's the life I'm going to live because this is the best life for me right now.
Don't get me wrong. I think I still do appreciate poker. It's just it really scared me to say I will appreciate it the way I want to appreciate it, and not like that. And it's interesting because, like, I think when you talk about courage, I think we need to talk about fears, like literally like at the same moment, right? Because like it's all about fears and facing them and like taking a proper look at like what actually scares us. And it's crazy because I think I have this expectation that like fears must be this really extraordinary thing in the bigger picture, but they're like it can be so small things, right? Like sometimes it's just like it's just saying something to another person that like it immediately starts in my head as, oh, what might he think? Like what might be his reaction? Maybe he rejects me, maybe he likes me less, maybe, and it's literally super. It's like, hey, I would rather not spend time with you today. Like immediately, like I'm already, it's like, wow, but that's what I feel like, and it's these small things that I feel they're scaring me. And I think it's constantly, and they're all like, the more conscious, the more you feel, because it's there, right? The more you feel it and feel yourself, the more your situations come up. And then to go in there is like, no, it's not. The consequences don't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's important that I express what I want to express. Because the moment you start thinking about the consequences and the result you want to achieve, that moment you're manipulating. You think about, oh, I want him to be like XYZ, and so now I got to do this. And it's just not being you. It's someone trying to be who you want him to be. And that is a huge difference in behavior. And it just tears like that's basically what you refer to. Is I see a lot of people around me who I get a lot of joy out of seeing them do steps where they get closer to doing the things that express them, that they feel good with. And it's so small things. Sometimes just saying a person that you want, like, just like, no, I always wanted to, go paint. Like my parents forbid me for like, I'm going to study arts now. And it's these, like, they feel that for them, it's the most important thing in their life. And for others, it's like, yeah, okay, just go do it. And, so my core message there is it doesn't matter what other people think about it. It doesn't matter how maybe irrelevant this thing is in the bigger picture. If it's relevant to you, then it's relevant.
I love it.
That's enough.
Love it. So I've been monopolizing the time because I'm so enraptured with this way of thinking. But panelists, any other questions or thoughts from you guys? I'll watch for the unmute, Ian.
I was going to add to earlier. So obviously, studying with other people is super valuable, but not only studying with people who are better than you, but studying with people who are maybe at a much lower level than you is super valuable to you as well, because you get to see how they look at the game, and in turn make yourself better when you're playing against people like them. And then I was also going to add that I'm going to have to get one of those hoodies because the orange ones are super ugly. So you and Matthias rock them well, but I can't do orange, but I'm going to have to get one of those ones.
I understand.
Ian's taking a step at expressing how he really feels. He's being authentic, like you've invited him to do.
No consequences except we're gonna put the merch online so you get your black hoodie.
Well, Fedor, I want to give an opportunity to talk a little bit more about what you're doing. So you're wearing a poker code sweatshirt. For most of our folks are just listening on a podcast, so they don't see this, but you're wearing poker code. So we're talking about your transition away. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with poker code, but also, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but talk a little bit about some of the things that you're working on, outside of poker. This whole idea of the Prime Group, where you're talking about, I'm building infrastructure to grow, to take an idea to company as fast as possible, and creative collaboration for systemic positive change, and all these really cool things I'm reading about. Now you've got about 5 minutes to talk about your world.
I'll fire. Really quick. Basically, after poker, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Traveled, and pretty quickly came to the decision to just start a company. We started with Prime Mind, was a mindset coaching app in 2016, 2017. Was the first company I built. I bought an office here in Vienna, renovated it. And then basically one thing came to the next, which was also very interesting experience for me, because I was trying to think in poker, what were the things I liked, what were the things I didn't like. So I really liked collaborating. I really liked getting into new topics and learning, and really fast learning, big sets of information and logic. So I always like to just be creative and also work with creative people and create new things, connect people, talk to new people. So there are parts in entrepreneurship where this is really it fits. And so kind of what happened was we started somewhat of a company builder. So we built Prime Mind, but then started building other companies, built an education app for children that is launching now. Actually, I invested in a bunch of other companies. But that's basically what happened there is I've realized, hey, I don't want to go in this VC company building direction. It's too much in this organizational, or in this let's say managing direction, where it's I'm on a board of 5 companies, I'm invested in 20 companies, and I'm just it just wasn't I really liked working with the people, and there were a couple of people that are still till today. I really like the people. It's just these people is hey, I want to support them. But the framework I chose around investing in that company and that wasn't the thing that I really enjoy. So actually the investment part I really didn't care about so much. So that was the thing I learned for myself. So now the switch in the last year, 2 big things were, one, I basically rather do less things that I really care about than do 25 things where I do half an hour. That's one big thing. So the things like that poker code also we created last year, which is a poker coaching platform, and I have an amazing team there. So it's super fun to collaborate with them, and yet challenging, because every company is just so many unknowns that we didn't think about before. And it's amazing to work with these guys. And actually the thing that I really care about there, and that's kind of where all the things tie together now, is what I've learned about myself in the last 2 years. I actually don't care about money emotionally. So it's it's a thing. I understand the thing or the system, but I really don't care. And I've been making a lot of my life around money. And it's I have to stop doing that, because I'm constant, again, it's what I should, I need an identity, or what I should be doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. If I create things, then, they need to be a company. Now I'm what if not? What if now I'm just hey guys, I work with you. I help you build your product. I don't need shares. I don't want to invest. I don't care. I just work with you, period. So there's a lot of things where I'm now I can do that too. Right. So now it's more a circle of people that I really like, that I support the people. And that's a huge difference. So before I was invested in a company and then the people were linked in. Now it's just hey, I like that person. I really want to support them living like expressing themselves more, and mostly that's then like through some creative action, like building a company, whatever. But like I support them, so that's a big shift for me. But the other really important part is building community. So it's basically I see life as energy in lots of ways, and I can really feel how I feel I can feel energy. So it's like I meet a person and it's like you can immediately this thing of like energy. You know, are they energetic? Are they dynamic? Are they passionate? Do they care about what they do? How does it feel? And so I think the more people's needs are met and the more they can express themselves, automatically the energy rises. I can feel that. If I'm not passionate about doing things, I am so unproductive. It's incredible. There's no energy. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this. And it's like getting these things. So I want to create, or I personally care about helping people getting that, like finding that more. Like, and so what I'm building is, on the one side, we want to do like create Poker Code into more of a community, because we started with the course and I was like, that doesn't feel right. Like I like the course, and we literally, it was so much work. It's incredible. Like I look back and it was just like creating a script for 10 hours of recording. Like it's, think of a movie,
Right.
1.5 hours. Like I had to wing so many situations where, like, obviously you can't write the whole thing. It was like, I don't know how many hundred thousands of words, but it is like, it's so much work that went into that because we had such high expectations of how we wanted it to be. And then at the end, obviously there's still people who say like, yeah, I want this and I want this and I want more and I want that. I understand. Like I would have high expectations too. But I felt like the blue pill, right? It was exactly this thing. It's like, here's the course, watch it, done. I was like, that's not enough. In the sense of, actually, I want to communicate a different message. I think the core that made me successful, that made me enjoy the game more, was to be with the people and to exchange and to share, and like the forums, my Skype groups, my friends, the people I traveled with, that I learned with. So I want to make Poker Code together with the team more about community. So to create challenges, to create more content, to run webinars, to run coaching groups, to like really, it's like, I actually, now it's like I know the people by name. Like I care about their progress, and I want to care more. Like I care more and more and more about their progress. So I'm building a relationship with the people there. So that's what Poker Code is for me about. And the main project I put most of my energy into is a community I built here in Vienna. So like very similar idea, but just not poker. But it's great that all these things work so smoothly together, because I think I'm figuring out more and more what I'm passionate about. And so what I want to do there is, it's called Under the Tree. And what I've established for myself too is that I'm, as I said, not so excited about money. Like I can get on board for it. Like sales excite me for about like 2 minutes. It's like, ooh, awesome. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I really, what things that lasting really excite me is people that create things, period. Like I really like, I love education, like health, food, like topics that really touch a lot of people, where there's people in there who are just so creative and so inspiring in a way, and you can't make much money in it, but like still, like I was like, actually, if I think about all the things that really excite me, these are the things that really excite me. Like yeah, learning always excited me, so education is one of the topics that excites me the most. And it's like, okay, I can't build, there's not the obvious company I can build there was like going to be $1 billion company, whatever, I still want to do it. So the idea of Under the Tree is to just bring together people in different areas, buy a house, just found one, so very happy about that. We're going to start this year and just bring together the coolest people, like the ones who want to move something, the ones who care about what they do. So that's the idea of this community, is to just create a platform, a place where all the topics we've talked about today, basically bringing them all together and saying that's okay here. Like it's totally fine to express yourself. It's totally fine to to be like, this is the place where you can be authentic, because there's not so much pressure around like you gotta make X money, or like who are you, what's your identity. Like, I'm done with this. It's making me like, it's tiring me, and I just don't want to engage with it anymore. So that's in as little of a nutshell as I could, all the things that I'm working on right now.
Well, it's fantastic. And if you guys haven't done that, go check out fedorholz.com. A lot of stuff out there. But I just think you're such a gift to the people of Vienna. You're such a gift to humanity, and I know you're going to brush that off. But just the way that this perspective is I know. But really, I mean, and not because of what you accomplish, but because of your perspective and your paradigm on life. I think it's something that if people listen to this and re-listen to this and kind of take it seriously, and for those of you who are sort of like kind of brushing it off, ask yourself these questions. Start asking yourself these same things that Fedor asked himself, and start looking at life a little bit differently and wondering, what could my life be like if I really did what I was passionate about, if I really did what I loved, if I really, wasn't stuck in this default life and allowed myself to be shit on. What could my life be if I went painting? How much joy and happiness and fulfillment could I have? Because I think ultimately in this world, we need people that are full of joy and life and fulfillment. That's what's going to actually change the fabric of humanity in a positive way. And so I get fired up because this is the kind of stuff that I love to talk about as well. And so, who cares about poker? I want to talk about this stuff, but I know we're a little bit over time. I want to respect your time. So Fedor, how else, or what's the best way for people that are saying, I'm resonating with this dude, Fedor. He's kind of lighting a fire under me. I want to follow him. I want to hear more of what he has to say. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
So actually, you mentioned Jonah earlier. So yeah. I'm working closely with my boy Jonah. He, the wizard. He creates almost all my content, or we create it together. And it's actually, this year I had a pretty strong switch or shift of mind, where I was like, we talked about brand and we talked about communication, and I was just like, fuck brand. Like no, but I mean it, because I was like, why do we think about something that is like, why do we think about a brand as like, it's me? Because people talk about it as if there's like this, there's brand Fedor and then there's Fedor. It's like, okay, who's brand Fedor? Like, it's one person. So so basically I just made the decision to just say like, no, that's me. So basically all the content we're going to do, I don't want to do anything staged anymore. I don't want to say anything staged. And it wasn't like, we staged this whole thing, but it's just like, if something doesn't feel like, it's staging a picture, no, just take a picture of me. Like, I don't post it, like do it on your camera, and like, just like, don't edit, just post. And that's the thing where it's like, I don't care. I don't want to care about when to post what, like 2 posts a day, 25 hashtags. Like, I don't give a crap. Like, I communicate what I want to communicate when I feel like communicating it. If I don't post something for 4 days, you'll see a post in 5 days. Deal with it, basically. So you can find me.
That's so consistent with like your message of being self-aware, but you're sort of, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're sort of this blend of there's people in this world that are self-aware, and then there's people in this world that are like fully integrated and authentic in everything they do. But you're sort of this rare combination, at least what I found, of combining those two things, where you're becoming more and more aware of yourself, and your posture toward life is fully integrated and fully authentic. And right? I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I wouldn't say, like, I would never say it's fully, because I don't think it's a thing that is just done. Like, I think, every single day, actually more than earlier, I find things where I'm like, okay, this didn't feel right, or like I wasn't really, I can't connect so much with that. And it's actually, the more sensitive I become, I feel the more things are coming up, and it's like,
so it's a process of becoming more endless, fully aware and more fully authentic.
Yeah, exactly. But okay. I think it's, I don't think we will reach that point, and that's okay. Like, it's just, it's progress, or like things are happening, and it's things are progressing. So if you want to hear more about what I'm communicating from time to time, probably the best is Instagram, because Instagram and Twitter, I think, are the two parts where I put out the most content. Twitter's Grown Up Guy, my good old screen name. Still love that one. Good old times.
Okay. I know we're over time, but Crown Up Guy, I would love to know from you why. Where was the genesis of that?
It's literally, there's no good story behind that. I was about, I don't know, I was young. I wasn't speaking English so well. It was actually a very, very poor, so it was like this mixture of like grown up, and crown, so just winning trophies basically. I'm underwhelmed. It's the worst nickname story ever, but that's exactly what it was. So
okay. So crown up guy. We'll put that in the.
I mean, I was basically looking like a 13-year-old all the time. So like I was, people made fun of me for looking very young. So I just picked up that, and then I was like, I'm gonna win some crowns.
Nice. Simple as that. And then you did. How about Instagram?
Just Fedor Holz. I think if you Google my name, you'll find.
You appear in one or two searches. Yeah, it was hard, but I found some information on you. It was really difficult. You're nowhere to be found on Google. He said tongue in cheek. Well, any parting words, young Fedor, that you'd like to leave with our folks?
Man, we touched on it's so interesting because you can talk about specific topics. Obviously we could have dove deeper into like very specific poker content, but it's just the more general topics excite me more because I feel that it's everywhere. Like things that I've experienced in poker, it's never just a thing, it's always life. You can't just I think you can't just isolate and like, okay, that's it. Because it's just an illusion of security, illusion of safety. It's just like, oh, I'm this and this person. There I'm, successful. And like, I mean, I did the same, it's like, oh, I'm the number one poker player. And like every situation now I can, I'm rich and I have this identity that I can like, I'm protected in every situation. Mm-hmm. But it's an illusion. If I don't feel, I felt insecure. I didn't feel secure. I felt like I'm hiding behind like this thing. And so I think turning that away or like pushing that away and just being like, okay, how do I feel? And I was like, oh, I don't feel good. I feel insecure. I feel like there's lots of things that I don't feel as amazing as I'm like communicating it to the outside. So I think the core message that I would like to communicate is just whenever you think like it's just an illusion, and that's not I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a nice way of like just let it go and like face all the things that are there for you to face, and then I think it would get you closer to pursuing your passion and being a little happier and then being a little happier, and rather than being stuck in this game of safety, because it's just you're not going to win.
Well, Fedor, once again, thank you so much for jumping on here, giving us even more time than what you said you would. And it's a pleasure to speak with you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I think our folks are really going to enjoy the interview, and just thank you. I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll be in touch in the future.
For sure.
All right. Well, you can feel free to jump off. We're going to continue some of the logistics. If you'd like to stay, tuned in and recognize the Running Aces Player of the Week, you're welcome to do that. But none of us are expecting you to do that. So you can feel free to sign off at any point. Appreciate it.
Guys, it was a pleasure to meet you. We see each other maybe sometime soon.
That would be fun.
Put that hoodie up.
Yeah, we will. You can bet. Bye, Ian. Bye, Rob. Bye, Jim. Bye, John. Bye, Steve.
Peace. Take care.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, what are we thinking? What's our reaction to young Fedor?
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, of all the people that we've talked to and interviewed, we always talk about poker and this, that, and the other thing, but this guy blows my mind.
I'll take the listeners behind the curtain a little bit here at Rec Poker Nation. We don't talk to these guys in advance and say, hey, we want to talk about the value of community and learning with friends and sharing information and all learning together. But everyone we bring on here references that as like a critical part of their evolution as a poker player. And it just really validates what we're trying to do, putting people of various skill levels in contact with each other. And it's just been, I've noticed that just since I've become a regular lately on the podcast, everyone says that. And I know if you're listening out there, it must sound like we're prepping them to do it, but
No.
it's just good. It's just truth. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful aspect of what they're saying here.
Yeah, I agree with what both you guys are saying for sure. I mean, Rob, he blew my mind. He blew my mind completely. I want to hear more. Let's go. Jim, the sense of community, totally agree. John?
It was kind of like, you're listening to the Dalai Lama or something,
Right.
A Buddhist monk, right?
The wisdom.
And I wish I had that much of my crap together when I was that age myself. But I think there's a lot to be learned about a lot more than poker and a lot of the stuff that he said.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Literally, when I said I could talk to him for hours, I meant it, because this is sort of the journey I'm on now. I'm almost 50, and I'm just getting to that point now of going, maybe I don't have to live the life that everybody expects me to live. Like, I discovered that like a year ago. Like, what if I actually lived the life I wanted to live? What would that look like? And I'm starting to discover that. And I'm glad I'm discovering it now, but to discover it at his age and, even younger is super cool. And, Ian, I think, I don't know if you have anything to say about, response to Fedor, but I mean, obviously you've got a poker community too. And so you could talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, super valuable to that kind of Koo and Vlad picked me up and mentored me at a young age. And we talk quite a bit about poker and not only poker, but other stuff about life too. So, yeah, super just grateful to have learned that at a young age. And man, I would have liked to talk more as well, but I just wanted to kind of take it in, whatever he was saying.
Yeah, I felt like I was monopolizing a little bit because I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh, tell me this. So I apologize if I didn't let you guys chime in very much.
No, I was just happy to listen.
Yeah, well, it was great to have you on there. Well, anything else follow up there? Otherwise, we'll get into some of our announcements. But all right, well, good stuff. And Ian, feel free to stay on here if you want. You can chime on.
I better head out. I gotta get some stuff done before my flight later. So
yeah, safe travels, my friend.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Thanks for jumping
on. See you guys.
Here. So guys, yeah. So let's jump into some of the announcements. I'm still kind of on a high from that. I want to talk more with Fedor. I'm going to see if I can. I know we're still recording. I don't care, but I'm going to see if I can connect with him and see if there's any way that I can get more connected with him. I just love the way he thinks about things. And maybe what we'll do is he wants to have fun playing poker. We'll invite him to play in the Poker Stars home game. That's what we'll do, right? We'll see. Why not? Why not, right? If he really wants to have some fun. But John, I want to turn it over to you. Just to anything on the home games you want to announce, kind of what's coming up and that such.
Oh yeah, we've got our home game. So it's going to be the first Wednesday of the month for our No Limit Hold'em. That will be February 5th, and then we'll be. On February 12th will be our mixed game, which is, again, no limit, deuce to 7, single draw. And should be a great time. Just got another couple more signups to our home game group this week. So we're going to have a rocking crowd and see if you can win the points race this year.
Awesome. It's so fun, John. Thanks for doing that. It's so fun to see the people engage in that. And I talked to people at the tables who played it, and like some of the names I don't even know who, you don't recognize the screen names. They're like, hey, I played that hand, with you. And like, that's pretty awesome. So thanks for doing that. Anything, I know Chris is actually has some family stuff going on, so he wasn't able to join us today, but Jim, did you want to talk a little bit about content plans for February?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm really excited about this. I know everyone else on the panel is too. Chris has been putting together this great seminar presentation on stack sizes and position and how those things should affect your opening range and different factors to think about at that sort of pre-flop level when you're entering into a tournament. And we've got the seminar presentation for that. There's going to be a hand history segment a little later in the month. And then I think on the last Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we'll have a live Q&A with all the members of Rec.Poker.
9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Good point. Yeah.
Mr.
Here I am,
Toronto.
inserting my Toronto scene into it. But that's going to be great. That's going to be a great chance for everybody to review the stuff we're putting out over the month and then check in with some of these wizards here about exactly how they'd fine-tune some details, and we'll all probably change our minds about a few things. I love this way that we're just discussing different concepts throughout the month. And, just as he was saying, we all get better when we do that. And talking about why we think certain things, we learn a lot about each other and about holes in our own arguments that I think already I found to be really helpful. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, and if people are wondering, how do I get the access to the seminars, to the live Q&A? That's for our members. So you can go to rec.poker, check out membership stuff out there, get in touch with me. It's $10 a month or $100 for the year. You get access to all the seminars, all the content that we've already produced in the past, all of the sort of the online recordings of us playing the home games, all kinds of really cool stuff that you get. And if you sign up, you get a free month. So sign up, try it out for 30 days. If you don't like it, don't continue. It's as easy as that. But a lot of really good stuff out there. And like Jim said, we're doing this all in the context of community. That's what I love about it. It's the same people, and it's kind of a growing realm of people who are chatting about these things and the relationships that we're building, and a lot of really cool stuff. Yeah, but thanks for your work on that, Jim. I know everybody's participating in that, and Chris is leading that. So thanks for that. Let's celebrate some binks, shall we? So if you want to have your bink on the Rec Poker podcast, just be part of Discord, be on the Discord thing, go to the Bink channel and put it out there. It's not that complicated. We got 3 folks this last week who have put their binks out there. So Alberto Briones Miraz, and actually I'm working with Alberto on this really cool project for 2020. We're not going to release what's going on, but him and I are behind the scenes kind of working on a cool project about his journey trying to pursue poker greatness, if you will. So it's pretty fun what we're putting together there. But he chopped the free roll. He was pretty fired up about that. He got $370, but he also won a seat to a $350 tournament at Running Aces. So he's hoping to translate that do something like Emmanuel Evagon did a while ago, win the free roll, win the big one for 40 grand. So Alberto's got big plans for that deal. So congrats to you, Alberto, on that deal. CJ Bell playing on Poker Stars, Pennsylvania. So Jim, you might appreciate that. Turned $10 into $636. So fantastic job by Wildcat, 12,785. And then the third one that we had posted out there was, well, it's either Jacob or Jakub, and I know he plays in a different country, and we've exchanged a little bit, and I apologize for that, but another online victory, turning $11 into $565 on January 23rd. So congrats to all of the recent binks. And again, if you want that out there, just go to Discord, put it out there, let us know the details, and we'll put it out here because we're celebrating. That's part of what we do in community is we learn together, we celebrate together, we encourage each other. And what better way than to acknowledge the wins that we're seeing happen among Rec Poker Nation. Running Aces Players of the Week, I'm actually going to hold off till next week. We're recording this on Saturday. We normally record it on Monday, so we know who the Players of the Week are. We'll just hold off on that, and we'll do it twice the next week. So you're going to have to wait with bated breath on who won those bonus lammers. One other thing I wanted to bring up, we've just we've had this all along. We haven't really promoted it, but Patreon. So this is something where if you're thinking, man, I'd love to support the folks at Rec Poker. I'm not really ready to become a member. I really don't want to do that. But man, the podcast, interviews with Fedor Holz, Maria Ho, Daniel Negreanu, all of these things that we're doing free of charge. If you're saying, man, I'd love to support Rec Poker, no pressure at all. Just engage with the content. But if you want to support us in what we're doing, go to patreon.com, Patreon, patreon.com/RecPoker, and you can support us. You can look around there for as little as $1 a month. Charles Zhang, Charles, thank you. He's our latest Patreon supporter. Appreciate you jumping on board there. So that's just another way that you can support us if you want to say, man, thanks for what you guys are doing with the podcast, with Discord, with the home games, with all of this stuff that we're just doing because it's fun. But obviously it's nice to be able to pay the bills as well. So I've been told. But thanks for that deal. And just highlighting upcoming guests, the next couple that we have coming up. So Dara O'Kearney, I'm super excited to talk to Dara. That is next week. And I did confirm it's Dara. I've been going, is it Dara? Is it Dara? And I listened to a bunch of interviews with people, and like people are calling him different names. Like, what's going on? So I finally found some interviews where he's introducing himself, and he says Dara. So I'm going to go with Dara. That's where I'm going with that deal. But he's on February 3rd. KL Cleaton, which I'm really excited to talk to KL. He's the brains behind Range Trainer Pro. It's a great tool to help figure out what ranges we should be opening with in different situations, and it meshes in nicely with what Jim was talking about. Next month we're doing this seminar talking about ranges and opening by position and that sort of thing. So we'll talk to him. Then we've got Ed Miller, Maria Ho, and the list goes on and on. So great set of folks coming up. So anything else, you guys? Again, I'm blabbering on and on and on like I do, but any other things that the Rec Poker Nation needs to be aware of for the coming week? Shaking heads. All right. Well, you can connect with us, rec.poker. We're continuing to make the website even better and better. So go out there, sign up for the newsletter. That's probably the easiest way to get all the information in one place. Otherwise, you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. Email me directly if you have any questions, steve@rec.poker. But that's it, man. Support us however that looks like for you. Like us, rate us, review us, tell other people. Thank our sponsors. If you're connected with Ryan LaPlante at Learn Pro Poker, say, hey, thanks for supporting the Rec Poker Podcast. If you go to Running Aces, tell them, hey, thanks for partnering and being the official sponsor of all things Rec Poker. Let them know that they are appreciated for supporting what we do. So with that, we will let you go, and we will connect with you next week with Dara O'Kearney.
Bye, all.